Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a video talking to you about something that has really changed my perspective on things, and that is the CZ P09 or P09, depending on what your particular vernacular is. So for those of you unfamiliar with the CZ world or their naming conventions, the P09 is the full-size polymer frame hammer-fired gun by CZ. Now, this is the first CZ pistol that I've ever bought, and I can say that this has been my gateway drug into other CZ products and some more CZ products that we'll hopefully be seeing here in the near future. So we're going to jump into my experience with this thing, how it's performed for me, and all that jazz. But let's just cut in some shooting footage and we'll dive deep into this pistol. Now, before we get too far in this video, I do want to say thanks to PMC Ammo for making this review possible. The apocalypse for ammo is upon us, if you haven't noticed, and PMC Ammo did provide the ammo for me to finish this review, so I really do appreciate that. This video would have taken much longer, or probably never would have happened to the extent that I would have liked to had they not provided that ammo. So again, I do want to say thanks to PMC Ammo, and as you'll see throughout this video, their ammo, the PMC Bronze, as should be no surprise, was 100% reliable through the entirety of my testing with this thing. So let's go ahead and jump over the features of this pistol here. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the Surefire X300 just so we have it in its factory configuration for the bulk of our conversation here. Let's start with the slide. So on this model here, there are several different models of the P09. This is their OD green model, as will become very apparent with my CZ addiction. OD is the popular color for me, and just in general. But this specific model came with their night sights. Now, it's not a tritium night sight that most of us are going to be familiar with. This is more of a photoluminescent, I can't remember what the term that they have for it, but like a photoluminescent sight. So like a glow-in-the-dark sticker where once it's exposed to light, it'll glow for a period of time. That's kind of how these work. Now, it's not like that where you got to pull out your flashlight and like shine a bright light on them to get them to actually work. They'll actually hold the charge for quite a while, to the point where I've had one of these in a range, well, I've had this one in a range bag, and then after a day or so pulled it out in my dark room and I could see my sights clear as day. So they're definitely very effective night sights, and I almost prefer them to the sight picture I get with tritium. Now, I'm not going to say I do for sure, but at least in the little bit of the bit of time I've had with them, I definitely do like these sights. Now, for those of you who are curious, these sights here are not suppressor height. So they do have a suppressor ready model. That one does come with suppressor height sights. This one does not. However, obviously you can install those should you choose, whether you want to run it with a red dot or if you want to run it with a suppressor. So you do have options, but this is the way at least this model came. Now, jumping down to the frame on this thing, you do have a very good sized accessory rail up here. So as you saw, I had a Surefire X300 attached to the front of this thing, and the X300 does stick out a little bit further, but compared to, say, a Glock 19, this thing definitely has a longer slide. It is going to accommodate these full-size duty style lights a lot better. The sides of the slide are textured on both sides, which is a great reference for a support hand thumb. Whenever I am taking newer shooters out to the range, the biggest thing I see them struggle with is kind of what to do with their support hand when they present the gun, and having that textured patch on the side just gives you something to feel for every single time you present that gun, and at least for me, it makes it easier to articulate what they should be doing or what their goal should be with that support hand. So kind of a nice thing there. It's not a gas pedal for people who are looking for something like that, but it is there as a point of reference and does give you a little bit of texturing for a little bit of added grip there. Now, moving back, the slide lock on this thing is only for righties. You don't have a slide lock on the right side of the gun, which is going to be more ideal for lefties. That's just kind of standard lefties. You know, you gotta make do with what you got. Now, that being said, I do have my little Donald Trump or Whopper Jr. hands, so it's not super easy for me to get onto. So what I have found myself doing, just to demonstrate here, is using my support hand as I reestablish my grip. I'll insert a magazine, and then as I reestablish my grip, I'll use my support hand thumb to drop that slide and then present it in on the target. But it is pretty oversized, so for those of you who are not as digitally challenged as I am, you might be able to get on that a little bit easier. Now, moving back, as well, we got our hammer back here, so it's perfect. We do have our decocker. The decocker is ambidextrous, so whether you're right-handed or left-handed, you can definitely get on that thing very easily. However, compared to some other the metal frame CZs out there, this is the more Omega style decocker, so you have to push down on the front of the decocker to get that hammer to go forward, as opposed to on the rear side, like my P09, just as a hint of things to come. Now, one of the cool things about this trigger system, very similar to the Omega series, is you can actually convert this from a decocker to a safety. So if you wanted to run it with the hammer cocked and a safety on, you do have that option. And I actually ran it like that for quite a bit when I was still kind of new to this gun, because not super well, I don't want to say I'm not super familiar with double action, single action triggers, but I don't have as much practice with double action, single action triggers. And again, with my little Whopper Jr. hands, I had a hard time getting onto that trigger and getting good placement with the trigger all the way forward. So I preferred that consistent trigger pull every single time with that trigger a little bit further back, because I guess for those of you who are not aware, if you can see the trigger in here, I'm going to step a little bit closer to the camera here. If you can see the trigger in there, as you cock the hammer, the trigger does go to the rear, and as you decock it, that trigger goes back forward. So by having the safety, you keep that trigger further back and you have the same trigger pull each and every time. However, I really don't like switches on guns that make them stop working. I want things to just work. I want to have as few steps between me making the decision I need to use my gun and actually using my gun as possible, and getting rid of safeties really does help that, and especially in a context like this where I have a decocker and that trigger pull is my safety, I would much prefer to have that option. Again, I tried it, just not for me. If you're used to, say, 1911s or high powers or anything else that's a more single action style, maybe you'll dig having that safety, but for me, I prefer that decocker. I'd rather just be able to pull the gun out and pull the trigger. Again, different strokes for different folks. Now, as far as the frame of this gun goes, or I should say the grip of this gun goes, I actually really like it. Now, the standard magazine capacity on this thing is 19 rounds, which is a lot of 9mm. However, when you have it in your hand, it doesn't feel as big as it is. Again, even with my smaller hands, I keep bringing it up, this gun is very comfortable in my hand, whether I'm strong hand or my support hand. I really do also like the texturing on this grip. I've got a lot of experience with the P10 series, the P10C and the P10F, and I personally am not a huge fan of those grips. I just don't like how spiky they are. This one is much more comfortable. Both this and the P07 have the same grip feel, and I'm a big fan of it. You do also have replaceable back straps here, so if you wanted to, you can make it larger. The one that comes on them out of the box is the small size, but it does come with a medium and a large should you choose. Again, for me, the small was perfect. And even with my relatively meaty hands, I get plenty of grip on that gun. I don't have to worry about getting my pinkies out of the way when I do my mag changes. Everything there is good. Now, one of the cool things, options out there, while we have the 19 round mag standard, you do have companies like Shield Arms making +5 base plates, so I can now be running 24+1. So for those of you who use critical duty out there, I could have an entire box of critical duty before having to do a reload, which is kind of a cool thing. So ammo capacity is definitely a big plus of this thing. But really, that's kind of all the main high points that I wanted to talk about as far as the externals of this thing goes. And everything is just pretty straightforward, very functional, and I think just a really good thing. So how do those attributes contribute to performance? So I have to say that kind of right out the gate, like I said, this thing has warmed me up and kind of converted me to the cult of CZ. And part of that was the very first time I took this thing out, I was shooting this thing extremely accurately. Now, compared to my Glock 19, which I have several thousand rounds through, I have a lot of experience with that thing. I'm very accurate with that. With less effort, I was able to shoot more accurately with this. Now, that could come down to the sight radius, but I really think that mechanically there's some advantages going on here. First of all, the double action, single action trigger and its single action is just a very nice trigger. You do also have less felt recoil with something like this. Now, for those of you not familiar with the CZs, I didn't talk about this during the slide because I thought it'd be better to talk about it now. You might have noticed that the slide is very short on this, and that's because of the kind of inversed rail system that these guys use. So because of that, you have less reciprocating mass, even though it's kind of happening pretty high above your hand. Because of the lighter mass there, you have less felt recoil. Less felt recoil means there's less that your brain is trying to think about or overcome, and again, contributes to better accuracy. So, you know, with the sight radius and all that stuff combined, I was consistently hitting steel at 100 yards with pretty minimal effort after some of the experiences I've had with other handguns, at least. Now, accuracy is all well and good, but we all know that the most important thing for something you're going to be trusting your life to is reliability. And I can honestly say that this thing has been 100% reliable. That's both the regular factory mags and the factory mags with those +5 base plates. I've got just over 1,000 rounds through this thing now, again, thanks to PMC ammo. And this thing has just run like a sewing machine. It has been a real pleasure. There have been some little things though that I've had to overcome, and part of that is going to go back to something I just praised, and that is the short slide. Because of that short slide, if you're used to coming over the top and grabbing onto the slide to do your actuations, it can be a little bit difficult. And again, even though I'm someone who never likes to tell people to use your slide lock as a release or your side release as a release, depending on who you are out there, I've kind of had to start doing that because I found myself too inconsistent with being able to drop the slide reliably just by gripping and ripping. So that is something to be aware of if that's what you're used to doing. Other drawbacks is you do have less aftermarket support of something like this compared to, say, Glocks or Smith & Wessons or even SIGs at this point. When it comes to holsters, I had to have a holster custom made by a friend of the store. This is a Highlander holster. I had to have it specifically made for the X300 here. I was looking for a Safariland holster. Safariland, at least when I was looking, does not make a CZ P09 holster with a Surefire light on it. So I was kind of stuck going the custom route. It's been a great holster for me, but it's something you have to go the custom route for just because of availability of aftermarket parts for CZs. Same with magazines. Magazines have been a lot tougher to get than other magazines that I've purchased in the past. Again, mostly for Glocks and Smith & Wessons and SIGs. So it's not impossible. I don't want to make it sound like you're never going to be able to find parts for this, but it is worth mentioning if you're looking for something you're going to be building an ecosystem around, i.e. holsters and mags and triggers and other accessories. It is going to be harder to do for this than those other pistols. But that's really kind of it as far as cons, in my opinion. I really do like this pistol. I've got a lot of rounds through it. I've got a lot of time with it, and it's really grown on me to the point where it's kind of become my primary duty style gun. When I'm running my battle belt, this is typically the gun I have on it. And again, part of that is just the really good capacity. If I'm in a situation where I'm gonna need to go to my backup, I want it to be something that has good continuity of fire in of itself. And again, that's definitely something that this thing brings. And again, it has kind of opened my eyes to the world of CZ. This was my first CZ. I've had friends tell me about CZs for a long time, and I just kind of was like, it's just one of those weird European things. I'm not really that interested. I got Glock, I'm good. However, after shooting this thing, I purchased another CZ. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick. It's on my waist because it's my carry gun, and that is the CZ P01 or P01, again, depending on who you are. As you can see the trend here, I got the OD green model, which is actually, as I found out, a pretty rare model of the P01, at least how it comes out of the factory. And this thing has just been an absolute pleasure to the point where it's been my everyday carry gun for a very long time. Now, I had always said that I can't wait to find the gun that's going to replace my Glock 19 as my everyday carry. Whatever gun it's going to be is going to be great. I can't wait to see what technology has in store. Little did I know it was guns that have been around for a while. I just hadn't opened myself up to them. So again, this has been kind of my gateway drug into the world of CZ, and I am very happy as a result. And I can say I'm not the only one. I have a coworker, Alex, who his first CZ was a P09, and he absolutely adores that thing. He's had it completely customized by our gunsmith and our Cerakoter at the shop, and I'll roll in some pictures of that too. He's got an optics cut, he's got his red dot on it, he's got some slide cuts done to it. It's just a really neat gun, and it's been his gateway into now getting more CZs. So if you're looking for something that's going to be a really excellent duty gun, or just a really nice range gun, or something with really nice capacity as a bedside table gun so you don't have to worry about reloads, I really think you owe it to yourself to check out the CZs. Now, I get the memes and I get all the stereotypes that go along with CZ owners, and they're not entirely wrong based on the people that typically come into the store to buy CZs. But a lot more people seem to be opening their eyes to the world of CZ, and I haven't met a single person yet who was like, yeah, I tried it and I went back to Glock. At least no one who's tried the hammer-fired guns. To the point where, again, I can very easily see myself in the future getting a P07 as a daily carry gun just to keep the magazine compatibility the same, or get an SP01 to keep the magazine capacity the same with my P01, or maybe both, just so I have some options. But again, I really do think it's worth your time to check out the CZ pistols. If you have a rental range where you can try them out, if you have a friend who has them where you can try them out, basically look for the guy with a beanie and glasses, and I'm sure he'll have a CZ to let you try. And again, I think it'll definitely warm you up to the idea. So if you guys have experience with CZ pistols, definitely leave those in the comment section down below. Obviously, CZ is known for plenty of other things, like their Scorpions, like their Brens, all of which are excellent as well. But if you have experience specifically with the pistols, definitely leave that in the comment section down below. Again, this is just a sample of one, but I want people to get as good of an idea of what to expect as possible, and sharing your experience with that is definitely going to help. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and also throw those in the comment section down below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Again, I want to say thanks to PMC for providing the ammo to let me get this thing over 1,000 rounds. With the way things are right now, I don't think this would have happened anytime soon without that help. So I really do appreciate that. And I also want to say thanks to my patrons, because while PMC did provide the ammo for this, part of the funds to be able to purchase this pistol did come from my Patreon. So again, a lot of the thanks is owed to those guys. Because of that, we do exclusive content over there. We post all the content over there early. We have a Discord server. We do live streams, etc., etc. If any of that sounds interesting to you, or you just want to financially support the channel, definitely head over to my Patreon. There is a link down below. But anyway, with all that being said, as always, I hope you got something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.